Well, of course, Lord Balaram is not a person who we discuss so much. Of course, we talk about Krishna. This is the Krishna Consciousness movement, not the Balaram Consciousness movement. And in Srimad Bhagavatam, there's a few narrations about Lord Balaram. Lord Balaram killed a few demons. Well, who can tell me? Because you know, so many people tell me that the devotees in Mauritius are very intelligent and thoughtful and just, they really try to consider things deeply. Who can tell me one demon who was killed by Lord Balaram? Sulojini. Pralambasura. Just say, she beat all of you. And she's just about this here. One of the gentlemen, can you please tell me another one of the demons killed by Lord Balaram? Yes. Denukasura. Very good, thank you. Of course, Krishnas Prabhu, he knows a lot. He really knows a lot. Now, one of you ladies, huh? Oh, just say, Dvivida, the gorilla. Anyone else? Other one of the men? Demon killed by Lord Balaram. Sorry? Rukmi, that's right. Rukmi. So, anyway, I think that may be all, actually. Anyone think of it? Another one? Well, okay, well, that's good, yeah. He killed Romaharshana Sutta. That's good. Anyone else got any other suggestions? I think that's about all. So, let us just read a verse about Lord Balaram. Let's read a verse from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Let's sing. Let us sing. Okay. So here we go. This is now Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. chapter 15. 15, titled The Killing of Danica, the ass demon. And let's read verse 2. You can just read after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we may read a few verses actually, but we'll begin with 10th Canto, chapter 15, the killing of Danica, the ass demon, verse 2. Tan Madhava Venam Udirayan Rito, Gopaya Grinad B, Swayasho Balamita, Pashun Paraskritya, Pashavyam Avishad, Vihartum Kama, Kusamakaram Vanam. Translation. I think, can we just move forward a little bit? Because there's still something. I'm sorry to move you off your soft cushion. Austerity is the word of the grounds. Right, so that was the verse. Here comes the translation. Thus, desiring to enjoy pastimes, Lord Madhava, sounding his flute, surrounded by cowherd boys who were chanting his glories, and accompanied by Lord Baladev, kept the cows before him and entered the Vrindavan forest, which was full of flowers and rich with nourishment for the animals. Yes, I thought a little sort of Vrindavan Katha, Krishna Katha, might be suitable this time. Hare Krishna. So here is the purport. Actually, because it's the 15th chapter, it's not by Srila Prabhupada, but still it's a nice purport. Srila Sanatana Goswami has explained the various meanings of the word Madhava as follows. Madhava normally indicates Krishna to be the Lord who is the consort of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi. This name also implies that Lord Krishna descended in the dynasty of Madhu. Since the spring season is also known as Madhava, it is understood that as soon as Lord Krishna entered the Vrindavan forest, it automatically exhibited all the opulences of spring, becoming filled with flowers, breezes, and a celestial atmosphere. Another reason Lord Krishna is known as Madhava is that he enjoys his pastimes in Madhu, the taste of conjugal love. Lord Krishna would loudly sound his flute as he entered the forest of Sri Vrindavan, thus giving inconceivable bliss to all the residents of his hometown, Vrajadam. These simple pastimes of playfully entering the forest, playing on the flute, and so forth, were performed daily verse 4 now. Satatra tatraruna palavashriya pala prasunoru varena padayo sprishat chikan vikshya vanas patin muda smayan ivahagra jamadi purusha. The primeval Lord, referring to Krishna, the primeval Lord saw that the stately trees, with their beautiful reddish buds and their heavy burden of fruits and flowers, were bending down to touch his feet with the tips of their branches. Thus he smiled gently and addressed his older brother. And let's read the next verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Aho Amideva Varama Charchitam Padambujante Sumana Palarhanam Namant Upadaya Shikabya Atmanas Tamo Pahatyai Tarujanma Yat Kritam. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said to Lord Balarama, Krishna is speaking now to Balarama. O greatest of lords, just see how these trees are bowing their heads at your lotus feet, which are worshipable by the immortal demigods. The trees are offering you their fruits and flowers to eradicate the dark ignorance that has caused their birth as trees. And here's another interesting purport. The trees of Vrindavan were thinking, Hare Krishna. The trees of Vrindavan were thinking that because of past offenses, they had now taken birth as trees, and, being immovable, could not accompany Lord Krishna in his wanderings throughout the Vrindavan area. In fact, all the creatures of Vrindavan, including the trees and cows, were great souls who could personally associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But because of ecstatic sentiments of separation, the trees considered themselves in ignorance and thus tried to purify themselves by bowing down at the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. Lord Krishna, understanding their mentality, simultaneously glanced at them with affection and praised their devotional service before his older brother, Balaram. Let's read another verse. It's just so nice. Ete ilastava yasho kilalo katertam gayanta adi purushanu patam bhajante prayo ami munikana bhavadiya mukya Gudham vane pina jahat yanagat madaiva. This is again Krishna addressing Balaram and glorifying Balaram. O original personality, these beings must all be great sages and most elevated devotees of yours, for they are worshipping you by following you along the path and chanting your glories, which are themselves a holy place for the entire world. Though you have disguised yourself within this forest, O sinless one, they refuse to abandon you, their worshipable Lord. So, we could just go on reading verses and purports. It's amazing. But let's say a few words. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestha Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Name. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatare Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vanchikalpatarubyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam bhavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. Yes, so it was the arrangement of Krishna, or it was the arrangement of Balarama, that I received this beautiful picture of Balarama by the kindness of Sulachini. It's true. Don't underestimate the younger devotee. Don't underestimate. Really. So anyway, yeah. So I got stimulated to think a bit about Lord Balarama and his relationship with Lord Krishna and their pastimes together and some lessons we can learn from these things, about these things, and from these things. Let me just start by relating one little Prabhupada story, which I think some of you, many of you many will have heard before, about Krishna and Balarama. Well, there were two devotees, disciples of Prabhupada, named Yamuna. You've heard of Yamuna. She's famous, most famous cook in ISKCON, even more famous than Mother Srimati. That's pretty famous. It's Mother Srimati. It's probably best she's not. Mother Yamuna, wow. Mother Yamuna was such a cook that, well, Prabhupada defined an expert cook to her. Prabhupada said, because Prabhupada was encouraging her to become an expert cook, which she became. Prabhupada said an expert cook, just by not tasting, just by smelling a preparation, can tell all the ingredients, means particularly the cooking medium, if it's ghee, if it's oil, what type of oil, and the spices, and the quantities and proportions of the spices, and fasten your seatbelts, particularly the ladies, what order the spices were put in. Not bad. What do you think? Because some preparations, like there's a preparation, pushpana rice, which is just a super excellent, it's the best rice preparation there is. And there are two stages of putting in different spices. Anyway, let's not get into that too much. But Yamuna was one of the devotees involved in this pastime with Srila Prabhupada. But ladies, some of you should think about it. Yeah? Think about it. So there was Yamuna, and there was another devotee named Madhava Swami, he was a sannyasi. They were both very nice devotees, extremely nice. Unfortunately, they both passed away. Some, not too long ago, but some years ago, a few years ago. So they were having a discussion. And the subject was, what is the difference or differences between Krishna and Balarama? Familiar with this discussion? You think so? Okay, anyway, that's right. So yeah, what are the differences? And Madhava Swami, sannyasi, and quite a leader in Prabhupada's movement at that time, he, in a kind of, assertive way, shall we say, very positive way, he said, there's only one difference. Krishna is blackish, Lord Balaram is white. That's the difference. And Mother Yamuna said, well, yes, but it is not the only difference. There's another difference, is that Krishna is the only enjoyer of Srimati Radharani. That's a good point. But our Madhava Swami was not ready to accept. He was saying, no, it's just the difference in color. No. Krishna's the enjoyer of Radharani, not Balaram. No. And it actually became more or less like an argument. It became a little heated. And another very, very senior devotee was there, Tamal Krishna Goswami. And Prabhupada happened to be sort of around. And Tamal Krishna Goswami took them both to Srila Prabhupada. And Tamal Krishna Goswami, he explained to Prabhupada the dilemma, the problem. He said that Srila Prabhupada, Madhava Swami says, the only difference between Krishna and Balarama is a difference of color. Krishna being blackish, Balaram being more or less white. And Srila Prabhupada said, he's right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, but Mother Yamuna says that there's another difference, that Krishna is the only enjoyer of Srimati Radharani. And Srila Prabhupada said, she's right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, Srila Prabhupada, they cannot both be right. And Srila Prabhupada said, you're right. Now this is Srila Prabhupada, he's just so tuned in and so able to just catch the attention and the heart. You're right. And Tamal Krishna Goswami said, but Srila Prabhupada, how are we to understand this? And Srila Prabhupada said, you decide. In other words, don't stress about it. Just relax. Chant Hare Krishna or Hare Rama. Yeah. Some questions are like that. Some questions are like that. The answer is Hare Krishna. One story I mention sometimes is that Srila Prabhupada was in Hawaii, and there were many devotees there, and it was a small temple, and in the morning they had Tulsi arati, but it was very difficult for everyone to get around Tulsi because It was a small room and many devotees. And Srila Prabhupada was there in the room. So they're going around, and some of them are brushing against Tulsi. And Prabhupada stopped the kirtan and said, "Don't touch Tulsi." So now they're sort of somehow squeezing up a bit more so they don't brush against Tulsi. And Srila Prabhupada stopped the kirtan. And Prabhupada said, what did Prabhupada say? Prabhupada said, just listen to this. Prabhupada said, "Don't step on Tulsi's shadow." Hare Krishna. So now the devotees, it's all very difficult. They're jumping over Tulsi's shadow. And there are a few lights around the room, so there's shadow this way, shadow. And they're devotees, they're jumping around. It's all a bit quite awkward. And Prabhupada stopped the kirtan and said, "Don't step over Tulsi's shadow." Anyway, somehow the program was concluded. And then, at some point after the morning program, the head pujari came to speak to Prabhupada and ask him some questions. And the head pujari said, "Srila Prabhupada, today you are emphasizing so much about respecting Tulsi, we shouldn't even step over her shadow. But every day I have to pick leaves off Tulsi. It must be, if stepping over her shadow is not nice, picking her leaves, breaking them off the plant, it must be a lot worse. And I'm doing this every day. What should I do, Srila Prabhupada?" And Srila Prabhupada gave a very profound answer. Listen to this. Prabhupada told him, "Don't live and don't die." Okay. Anyway, that was by the way. But Krishna and Balarama, it's a little bit like the question, who came first, Radha and Krishna or Lord Chaitanya? Are you familiar with this question? Who came first, Radha and Krishna or Lord Chaitanya? So, one devotee was actually a devotee, Achyutananda. He was out preaching in Calcutta and he met one man. And the man was saying, not exactly perhaps who came first, but who is better, Lord Chaitanya or Radha and Krishna? And the man said that Lord Chaitanya is better because Radha and Krishna, they are like milk and sugar. But Lord Chaitanya is like rasgulla. The milk and sugar, they have been put together in some very special way. You don't just put the milk and sugar together. It's a whole thing. So yeah, Lord Chaitanya is better because rasgulla is better than just milk and sugar. So this devotee Achyutananda went back to Prabhupada, a little bewildered, and he asked, who is better and who came first? And Srila Prabhupada said, Radha and Krishna came first. And then Achyutananda asked, well, but who is better, Radha and Krishna or Lord Chaitanya? And you know what Srila Prabhupada answered? Prabhupada answered, Radharani is best. Radharani is best. And they had a picture there, I don't think we have it around here, but they had a picture of Lord Krishna bowing down to Srimati Radharani. So Radharani is the greatest. Anyway, Lord Balarama. Lord Balarama. He's the first expansion of Lord Krishna, but he has some very, very special characteristics, or one in particular, really, which is very relevant to us, and we can really learn from this. That is, that, in fact, Srila Jiva Goswami discusses this, that if you ask Krishna, who are you? Who are you? Who are you? But if you ask Krishna, who are you? And if you ask Krishna, who is God? If you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna says, no, Krishna says, me. Straightforward answer. Krishna says, me. Now, Balarama is the first expansion. You can hardly say there's a difference, just like we were telling that little story. So Lord Balarama, you know, some of the expansions and partial expansions and expansions of expansions, they're just not, even though they're forms of Krishna, but they're just not really on the same level. For example, you may know, in Vishnu Sahasranam, have you heard of that one? It's one of the Vedic scriptures. Vishnu Sahasranam. It's part of, what is it? Part of Mahabharata. Anyway, it's somewhere there. It's one of the Vedic scriptures. Very authentic. After reciting, listing out the 1,000 names of Vishnu, Vishnu Sahasra, Sahasra meaning 1,000, Nam, Vishnu Sahasranam. So after reciting all those 1,000 names of Vishnu, the speaker, Vyasadeva, says, now we've chanted these 1,000 names of Vishnu, we have some special information for you, is that these 1,000 names are equal to one name of Lord Ram. Look at that. But then 3 names of Ram are equal to one name of Krishna. This is Vishnu Sahasranam. 1,000 names of Vishnu equal one name of Ram. 3 names of Ram equal one name of Krishna. And of course, what do we know about the names? Well, we know many things, but one thing we know about the names is that the names, the Lord is present in his names. The Lord is present in his names. So, if we say that 1,000, or Vishnu Sahasranam says, 1,000 names of Vishnu equals one name of Ram, you can understand from that, at least it's an idea, gives us an idea, that Lord Ram is 1,000 times more powerful than Lord Vishnu. If it's not exactly, in a sort of mechanical, mathematical type of sense, exactly like that, but it's something like that. Because the name is the Lord. And if the name is so powerful, that means the Lord, that particular Lord or form of the Lord, is that powerful. Yes, so, and then Krishna is 3 times more powerful than Lord Ram, basically, something like that. So yeah, if you ask Krishna, who is God? Krishna says, me. But if you ask Balaram, who is God, Balaram has the right to say, me. He has the right because it's true. But if you ask Balaram, who is God, Balaram says, Krishna. He says Krishna. And why does he say Krishna? What's the sort of the idea, the orientation of his consciousness in saying that? It is that he sees himself as being a devotee. He sees himself as being a devotee. He feels he's a devotee. He wants to be a devotee. He lives as a devotee. He acts as a devotee. This is Lord Balaram. Actually, this is also discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's discussed in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And there, the point is made that this consciousness, the consciousness of being a devotee, is very common amongst the different forms of the Lord. It's very common that they feel themselves to be devotees. And, you know, it's not just a formality like, well, Krishna is greater than me, he's the original, and so therefore I should take that position. But they actually feel inspired in their activities, their different pastimes. They feel inspired to be like that and think like that and act like that. And we make the point, sometimes you may have heard us make the point, that Krishna, Lord Krishna was here 5,000 years ago, performing his pastimes, and then he returned to Goloka Vrindavan. And when he returned, when he was back, then Lord Krishna was remembering all the wonderful pastimes he had had when he was here 5,000 years ago. And he was relishing that, how I enjoyed. This devotee was serving me, that devotee, so many devotees. They were serving me so nicely, I was getting so much pleasure. So Krishna's just relishing remembrance like that. And then an idea, a realization came to Krishna. A realization that even though I was enjoying so much by being served by all these wonderful devotees, but, Krishna thought, it seems to me they were getting more enjoyment from serving me than I was getting from being served by them. And Krishna thought about it. And he thought of this one devotee, another devotee, and how they were enjoying more. And he thought of one devotee, that devotee was enjoying twice as much. And Krishna thought, oh, that's amazing. Serving me, he's getting twice as much pleasure as me, who's being served. Then he thought of another devotee was getting 5 times the pleasure. Then Krishna thought of another devotee, this other devotee was getting 10 times. And another devotee was getting 100 times. And then someone else 1,000 times. And Krishna was this is just completely astonishing. And then he started thinking of the gopis and finally Srimati Radharani. And Lord Krishna understood Srimati Radharani was enjoying 10 million times more than him by serving him than he was enjoying. And when Krishna realized that, it really struck him so deeply. And Krishna decided, that's it. I am going to become a devotee. I have had enough of being God. I want to be a devotee, because that's where the real nectar is. But the thing is, and this is a very important point, that Lord Balaram understood that. Lord Balaram understood that the nectar is in being a devotee long time ago. Very long time ago. And so Balaram is just so much in that mood. So we can learn from that. You know, there's a famous line. Is it from Faust? Are you familiar with Faust? It's an opera about a man who sells his soul to the devil. Little do they know there is no devil actually, but anyway, this is the idea. The devil gives him some facility, but then after a little while, he has to hand himself over to the devil, and that's it. So that the person makes a very famous statement. Better to be, what is it? Better to be king in hell than servant in heaven. Haridev. This is material consciousness. Better to be king in hell than servant in heaven. In other words, people don't like this idea of being a humble servant. What can I do? I'll do anything, and I don't need anything in return. That's sort of mood of pure servitorship. People are not attracted to that in this material world. Because in this material world, everyone has this sort of fundamental diseased condition. It's like the foundational aspect of their being in material life. That is, I am the enjoyer. As Krishna, Lord Krishna in the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, he describes the mentality and activities of the demons. It's really quite dramatic. And there's one statement. Krishna says, the demon is thinking, Ishvaroham aham bhogi, Siddhoham balavam sukhi. This is Bhagavad Gita. Ishvaroham, I am the controller, I am the master. Ishvaroham aham bhogi, and I am the enjoyer. Siddhoham, I am perfect. Balavam, I'm very powerful. Sukhi, and because of all these things, I'm very happy. Sukhi. You know Sukh and Dukh, right? Are you familiar with those Hindi words? Is it the same in Bhojpuri? Sukh, Dukh. One of my brothers in South Africa. He's married twice. First time was to some girl, some sort of Russian or something, extraction. And would you believe, you know what her surname was? Duke. Haridev Krishna. Duke. Yeah. And you know what her first name was? Very common Russian name. Tamara. And I was present when he introduced her to one Gujarati couple who were very, very fluent in Gujarati Hindi. And he introduced her, yeah, this is my wife, Tamara Duke. And those people just went into shock. And they didn't know whether to laugh or cry. They were sort of, trying to not burst out with laughter. But anyway, Siddhoham Balavan Sukhi, the materialist is thinking, I'm perfect. Like the current president of America. Anyway, let's not go down that path. But he typifies that to some degree. Siddhoham Balavan Sukhi. I'm perfect, I'm powerful, and as a result, I'm happy. This is like the fundamental feature, characteristic of someone who's in material consciousness, one way or another. Whereas actually, we should be in the mood of being servants. This is what we are by constitution. By constitution, we are servants. But somehow or other, we've become conditioned. We've become, you could even use the term brainwashed. When something is repeated to you again and again and again and again and again, and just on and on and on, it tends to get into your head, and it tends to just go around in your head for some time at least. So yes, this is what has happened to us, that we've become conditioned by this idea. Many lifetimes of being oriented like this, that we are the enjoyers. But actually you cannot really enjoy so much on the material level. Little bit of enjoyment here and there, something tastes good, something feels good, something sounds good, but it's not that good. It's really not that good. Nothing like super amazing. So, but when we become following in the footsteps of Lord Balaram, when we accept this mood of being a servant and really try to accept it, then we become happy. Then we become happy and more happy and more happy. And Lord Balaram, he knows the secret. So he's completely into it. And therefore there are very nice descriptions of Lord Balaram. How Lord Balaram serves Krishna. Did you know, devotees, did you know that in Goloka Vrindavan, the whole of Goloka Vrindavan is based on the energy of Balaram. Balaram is supporting the whole of Goloka Vrindavan for Krishna, so Krishna can enjoy. Because Balaram's in that mood of service. How can I serve Krishna? I will manifest and maintain this whole unlimited place full of facilities for Krishna to enjoy. Jiva Goswami explains Lord Balaram, in order to give Krishna pleasure, Lord Balaram takes the form of Krishna's house. Krishna's house is a form of Balaram. Lord Balaram in the house takes the forms of all the furniture. He becomes Krishna's chair, Krishna's bed. These are all forms of Balaram himself. He becomes Krishna's clothes. What do you think of that? Next time you see a picture of Krishna, with what color dhoti will Krishna have on? That's you. What color dhoti will Krishna have on when you see a picture of him next? Yellow. Well done. That's good. Krishna. You'll see Krishna tomorrow. I'm sure we'll all see Krishna. He will have a yellow dhoti on. At least in the pictures, he always has a yellow dhoti. Because it's the same color as Radharani. It reminds him of Radharani. That dhoti is a form of Lord Balaram. Krishna's, Lord Balaram takes the form of Lord Krishna's shoes. Yeah, to get some dust from his lotus feet. He takes the form of Lord Krishna's umbrella. And Jiva Goswami says, well, he goes on about so many things, that there is practically nothing which Lord Balaram is not, in terms of the paraphernalia of Krishna. And it's all based on his desire. How can I serve? Let me serve in this way. Let me serve in that way. Let me serve in another way. And let me serve in so many others, so many ways. Because he has understood the point. The point is, the nectar is in being a servant. That's where the nectar is. You get some experience out of being a master or an enjoyer. It's something is there. But it's nothing like being a servant. So anyway, Jiva Goswami goes on to explain that, Balaram expands in all sorts of ways, actually. He expands into the material world. His energy is supporting the material world. Of course, Krishna doesn't enjoy the material world. You won't find Krishna coming to Mauritius and sunbathing at Flick on Flack, or surfing at, Tamarind. You won't see him. You won't see him. Yeah. Because Krishna, this material world for him, it doesn't offer that, some enjoyment. But still it does offer that it is a place for reforming the fallen conditioned souls. You heard of the school of hard knocks? Have you heard that term before? The school of hard knocks. Are you familiar with that term? There's one over there, you can ask her about it. Have any of you men heard of the school of hard knocks? You never heard? That's amazing. Anyway, okay. School of hard knocks means you learn by being knocked, by being bashed. Yeah, by getting hurt, getting kicked. We used to, when we were just very young devotees in London, when someone would get into Maya, you know, some wrong thinking and maybe some desire to enjoy, but then after a while they would get into some bad situation as a result. We used to call it the Royal Order of the Boot of Maya. You get the honor of getting the Royal Order of the Boot. You get kicked by Maya. So that's the material world. Lord Balaram is supporting the material world as a service to Krishna, because the material world is a corrective place. It's a place of correction. You get put through so many different things, and after a while, you come to the point of, I've had enough, I've been kicked enough, I'm going to change my ways and be a devotee. So that's Lord Balaram. And then Lord Balaram, not only does he manifest the material world by his energy, but then he enters as Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu is a form of Balaram. Oh, we have a Balaram fan here. Oh my gosh. Did you ever hear a class I gave on Lord Balaram? Okay. Anyway, you're hearing one now. So, yeah, he expands as Mahavishnu, who is supporting the whole material world. Then Balaram, from Mahavishnu, expands as Garbhadaksha Vishnu. Then he expands as Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Garbhadaksha Vishnu, of course, is in each universe. Kshirodaksha Vishnu is in the heart of every living being. And ultimately, he is within the atom. And Dantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam. The Lord is so small. He's so big, everything is within him. It all fits within him. But he's so small, he is within the atom. The atom meaning the smallest possible particle of matter. When you cannot divide matter any further, he's within it. That's Kshirodaksha Vishnu, and he is a form of Balaram. And there's more. You know, he expands in different rasas. Balaram expands in the conjugal rasa. Who of you intelligent Mauritian devotees, who could tell me who is Balaram when he takes the form, a female form, and enters the conjugal rasa to please Krishna, to serve Krishna in that way? Who is Balaram? I beg your pardon? Oh, did you know that? Ananga Manjari is the younger sister of Srimati Radharani. She is a form of Balaram. Then he's Ananta Shesh, supporting all the universes, always speaking the glories of the Lord. And then when Krishna appears, there's different avatars and for his pastimes. Lord Balaram appears in suitable forms with each expansion of Krishna. Yeah, it's amazing. It's truly amazing. How Lord Balaram is serving Krishna. So we should learn from this. We should try and learn from this. That really the nectar is in the service. The nectar is not in the enjoyment. Like, let me close by telling you one interesting little thing that Srila Prabhupada said. Srila Prabhupada said there are two types of devotees. One likes to eat prasadam. The other likes to serve prasadam. Prabhupada said, they are both good. So don't be in anxiety if you're in one of those countries. They're both good. But then Prabhupada said, however, the one who likes to serve prasadam is better. Yes. Hare Krishna. Shri Krishna Balaram Ki. Shri Baladev Ji Ki. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Now we got some really senior devotees here. If you, Krishnas Prabhu, would you like to enlighten us, give some realization, some thought?
Right, speaking after you've spoken, it's like I'm making a joke of myself. I like to, in the third canto, there's something about Lord Balaram. Just to add, because Mark was giving so many things about Lord Balaram. Yeah. When the Kumaras, they wanted to have an encounter with God, so they travel all the way from the Brahmaloka via the celestial Ganga, down to the bottom of the universe, where they encountered God in the form of Anantashesh. And Prabhupada said in the purport, this is where the conversation there is the starting of the Kumara Sampradaya. So just Balaram. Another rule of Balaram.
Thank you very much. Anantashesh, Balaram, just sing. Giridhari Prabhu, some enlightenment.
Very nice presentation, very nice class. When I was actually hearing different Prabhupada disciples glorifying the spiritual master, very often they quote about Balaram in the Adi Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the Guru Tattva is being described very in depth. And Srila Prabhupada described that, it's not a difference, but he very precisely says that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Lord Balaram is the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead. So the spiritual master, actually the disciple follow the spiritual master in the mood of servitor, like to serve.
Yes.
So this is what Lord Balaram gives us that good instruction to serve.
Thank you. Very nice. There's a statement, I don't know if it's actually from Prabhupada directly, but it may be, that Lord Balaram can be seen as the Adi Guru, the original Guru, and Srimati Radharani also can be seen as the original Guru. And there are some statements, just a few weeks ago, there was a whole discussion about this on the internet. And so we looked up some statements in the books. So yes, they can both be considered the original Guru, because both of them are so close to Krishna. Balaram, because he's the older brother, they're together all the time. He knows Krishna. When you live with a person, what to speak of, when you're married, you may live together for 50 years or 40 years or something. If you live with something for millions and trillions and zillions of years, you get to know them. You get to know how this person thinks and what sort of person this is. So Balaram is Krishna's brother. They're together all the time. He knows Krishna. And because he knows Krishna, he's the original Guru. And Srimati Radharani is part of Krishna, his internal potency, his pleasure potency, Leela Shakti. So she's part of Krishna. Of course she knows Krishna. She's part of Krishna. She knows Krishna. And therefore both of them represent or are manifestations of, say, of the Guru principle, because they know Krishna so well, and therefore they can inform people, help people to understand Krishna, how to approach Krishna, what not to do, all these things. Thank you. Mataji.
Prabhu was saying he was speaking about Balaram Tattva, and he was saying how actually Lord Balaram plays such an important role in the devotee's life because he gives that spiritual shakti.
Right.
So he was saying like, he was telling the devotees like whatever problem you have, if you want to tell somebody, just go in front of Lord Balaram and just pour your heart. And he gives the shakti. He actually solves your problem. So he was encouraging them whenever you go for darshan, go in front of Krishna Balaram and just tell him. He'll listen to you and he'll give you the shakti to continue in the spiritual life, whatever problem you have. So that was very
That's good.
inspiring.
Thank you very much. Yeah, you know, we do the seminar on the demons in Krishna's Vrindavan Leela, and then two of them were killed by Balaram, Denikasura and Balamasura, and we refer to Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Chaitanya Shikshamrita, I think it is, where he discusses this whole idea, and he makes the point that the demon, the anathas, which the demons killed by Krishna represent, those anathas, they can generally be overcome just by your ongoing Krishna conscious program, practices, and often without having to make like a special effort to sort of fight off some anatha. They just kind of dissolve away as you practice. But he says the two anathas, the anathas which Pralambasura and Dhenukasura represent, which are basically, Dhenukasura is more or less the mode of ignorance, and Pralambasura is more or less the mode of passion. They're like super anathas. They're super anathas. And he makes the point that just as those anathas, those demons were killed by Balaram, so in order to overcome the anathas, you have to make a special effort, and you have to take shelter of Balaram, and generally in the form of the spiritual master. And just Balaram, like you were saying, going in front of Balaram. Yeah. Anyone else? Any comment, question, any point anyone would like to raise? Who? Ah. A question. Loud and clear, please. Oh, I tell you what. Just give them.
also Krishna was more in favor of the Pandavas because they were devotees.
Right. I'm just, I came across a statement about that. I came across a statement about that exact point a while ago, actually, some time ago, and I don't know if I can find it here. Let's see if I can find it. But, I'm just trying to remember. Here it is. Just trying to remember where it came from, if it's from Prabhupada or one of the. Yeah, it's Jiva Goswami. Srila Jiva Goswami explains in Priti Sandarbha, Anuchade 116. Anuchade basically means sort of like chapter, or it's not exactly a chapter, really, but it's like a section, small section. So Priti Sandarbha Anuchade 116, that Lord Balaram's apparent affection for Duryodhana and Rukmini's apparent affection for Rukmini were caused by the Leela Shakti of the Lord, the pastime potency, in order to increase the wonder and glory of the Lord's pastimes. This is the explanation of Srila Jiva Goswami, Priti Sandarbha, Anuchade 116. I don't know if you've read the Sandarbhas, but they're pretty amazing. Yeah, so it was a special arrangement to just enhance the whole, just the whole amazing experience of the pastimes. So that's the idea. It may be a little hard to sort of digest, but sometimes the Lord does things like that. Some things which are apparently contradictory, but there's always reasons behind them. Is that okay? Okay, so devotees, I think time is moving on. Here's something from Priti Sandarbha. This is directly Priti Sandarbha. One should also consider Balaram's anger at Duryodhana, even though he shows partiality to him. Balaram expressed the desire to destroy him when Samba took Duryodhana's daughter Lakshmana and was imprisoned by Duryodhana. All this was arranged by the Leela Shakti of the Lord for creating variety. That's interesting. Okay, Hare Krishna. Haribol. So let us end here. Srila Prabhupada Ki.
His Holiness Bhakti Chitra Maharaj Ki.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Final kirtan. Yes. Kirtan. Krishnas Prabhu.